For years, Mark Consuelos has appeared to the world as the embodiment of strength, confident, devoted, and unwavering beside Kelly Ripa under the bright lights of television. Together, they have represented stability, humor, and a kind of effortless partnership that millions admired. But behind even the warmest smiles, real battles can quietly unfold. This story explores the emotional moment when Mark finally opened up about his health and inner struggles, a revelation that deeply affected Kelly and resonated far beyond their household. It is not just a celebrity update, it is a reflection on pressure, vulnerability, and the courage it takes to speak when silence feels safer. At its heart, this is a human story about love making space for truth, and about how one honest conversation can change the way we see strength itself. The image of the unbreakable man. For decades, Mark Consuelos has been viewed as a pillar of stability. On television, he stood beside Kelly with an easy smile, quick humor, and a presence that suggested everything was always under control. Fans saw a devoted husband, a proud father, and a successful actor who seemed to balance it all with ease. This public image created a powerful illusion that Mark was unshakable. In many ways, he came to symbolize what people expect strength to look like, especially in men: strong, dependable, composed, and rarely vulnerable. But this image, as comforting as it was, left little room for weakness. The narrative reveals how that perception slowly became a quiet burden. Mark felt the pressure to live up to the role everyone believed he embodied, to be the rock, to carry stress without complaint, to protect others from worry. Over time, that expectation did not fortify him, it isolated him, and, like so many people who appear strong, he began to fight his most difficult battles in silence. The private cracks. Kelly began to see. While the world saw confidence, Kelly saw something more complex. She noticed the restless nights, the quiet sighs, and the moments when his laughter didn't quite reach his eyes. These were not dramatic signs, but subtle shifts that only someone deeply connected would recognize. Over the years, Kelly gently urged Mark to slow down, to care for himself, to admit when he was tired or overwhelmed, and like many people raised to equate strength with endurance, he brushed off her concerns. "I'm fine," he would say. "Don't worry about me." But those words masked a deeper truth. Mark was carrying anxiety, pressure, and emotional fatigue that love alone could not dissolve. Kelly's growing unease reflected a reality many couples face: watching someone you love insist they are okay when their body and spirit quietly suggest otherwise. Her worry was not rooted in fear of headlines or schedules, but in something far more intimate. She sensed the man she loved was slowly disappearing behind the role he felt obligated to play. The night, the silence, finally broke. The turning point did not happen on a stage or in front of cameras. It happened at home, in the one place where performance could finally fall away. One evening, Mark sat with Kelly and allowed himself to do something he had resisted for years. He spoke honestly. He admitted that the pressure, the expectations, and the constant drive had been affecting him both mentally and physically. Tears replaced bravado. Vulnerability replaced reassurance. For Kelly, the moment was devastating and healing at the same time. It hurt to realize how long he had suffered alone. But it also brought relief, because the silence that had stood between them was finally gone. This confession shifted the ground beneath their marriage in a profound way. It was no longer about being strong for each other. It became about being real with each other. That night marked the beginning of a new chapter, one defined not by endurance, but by shared understanding and the freedom to admit that something wasn't right. When the story reached the world. When Mark later chose to speak publicly about his health challenges, the response was immediate and intense. Fans who had always seen him as invincible were stunned by his candor. He spoke about the emotional cost of celebrity, the strain of juggling work and family, and the heavy expectation to always appear in control. He acknowledged ignoring warning signs for years, fatigue, anxiety, and stress, because he believed he had to handle everything alone. That honesty reframed how people saw him. No longer just the confident co-host or charismatic actor, Mark became a mirror for countless others living similar realities. His words cut through the polished surface of fame and revealed something deeply human. In doing so, he disrupted the idea that success protects people from struggle. His confession didn't weaken his public image, it deepened it. It showed that even those who seem to have everything can be quietly fighting battles that deserve compassion, not surprise. Kelly's emotional reckoning. For Kelly, hearing her husband speak openly about his struggles was profoundly emotional. She later expressed that part of her sorrow came from realizing how much he had carried without leaning on her. Her response was not frustration, but tenderness. "I just wish you'd told me earlier," she said, her voice heavy with feeling. That statement captured something universal. How often do we assume the people we love are indestructible? How often do we fail to ask the deeper question because their smiles reassure us? For Kelly, this moment was a reminder that partnership is not about protecting each other from every burden. It is about trusting each other enough to share them. Mark's openness allowed her to step into her role not just as a supportive spouse, but as a true partner in healing. Their relationship, long admired for humor and chemistry, revealed a new dimension: emotional honesty. And that honesty became the foundation for something even stronger than what came before. How honesty changed their marriage. Perhaps the most meaningful transformation happened away from public view. Mark's openness did not strain his marriage, it deepened it. By acknowledging his struggles, he allowed Kelly to support him fully, not as someone guessing from the sidelines, but as a partner walking beside him. Their relationship evolved from one built largely on resilience and humor into one grounded in emotional transparency. This shift did not erase their laughter. It gave it a stronger foundation. They no longer had to protect each other from worry by pretending everything was fine. They could face uncertainty together. That change is subtle but profound. It illustrates how vulnerability, far from weakening bonds, often strengthens them. By letting go of the need to appear unbreakable, Mark made space for a more honest intimacy. And in doing so, he reminded many couples that love is not only about shared joy, it is also about shared courage in moments of fear. The promise that stunned viewers. Mark's story reached its emotional peak when he addressed viewers directly. Looking into the camera, he said, "If you are struggling, say something. Don't wait until it's too late. You don't have to carry it by yourself." These words were not scripted. They carried the weight of lived experience. For many watching, this moment lingered long after the broadcast ended. It felt less like a celebrity statement and more like a hand extended across distance. Mark was no longer speaking only for himself. He was speaking for countless people who had not yet found the words. That promise transformed his disclosure into an act of service. It reframed his personal struggle as something that could help others survive their own. In that instant, his vulnerability became advocacy, and for Kelly, it affirmed that his painful journey had opened a door to healing far beyond their home. Challenging the myth of masculine strength. Mark's openness struck a particularly deep chord because it challenged long-held expectations about masculinity. For years, he had embodied the ideal many men are taught to chase: be strong, be steady, don't show strain. That unwritten script is powerful, especially in public life. It demands composure even when the cost is high. By admitting his anxiety and exhaustion, Mark disrupted that narrative. He showed that strength is not about absorbing endless pressure. It is about knowing when to ask for help. His story joined a growing cultural shift, one in which public figures are beginning to talk openly about mental health. But what made his revelation especially powerful was its context within marriage. This was not a lone confession. It was a shared journey. He demonstrated that vulnerability within a partnership is not weakness. It is trust. And trust is one of the most resilient forms of strength there is. Kelly's journey through this change. For Kelly, this period was as transformative as it was for Mark. She has long been known for her energy, humor, and resilience. But this chapter asked something different of her. It asked her to sit with uncertainty, to let go of the comforting belief that love alone could shield someone from internal battles. Through Mark's honesty, she confronted a reality many partners face. That care sometimes means listening more than fixing. Her emotional response was not about fear of loss. It was about recognition. She saw the man she loved more clearly, not as a figure of strength, but as a person deserving of gentleness. In that clarity, she found a deeper form of connection. Their partnership became less about balancing public roles and more about nurturing private truth. Kelly's journey underscores that support is not passive. It is an active, evolving practice grounded in empathy. A story that extends beyond them. Ultimately, Mark's disclosure was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of a wider conversation, one that reached into homes, relationships, and quiet moments of reflection. It asked viewers to look again at the people they love, to wonder what burdens might be hidden behind familiar smiles, to consider their own unspoken struggles. The power of this narrative lies in its relatability. It is not about fame, it is about silence and what happens when it is finally broken. Mark and Kelly's experience became a reminder that vulnerability can ripple outward in ways we never anticipate. It can soften others, it can give courage, it can reframe what strength truly means, and perhaps most importantly, it can transform private pain into shared hope, turning one honest voice into many.